So let's move on and take a look at a two-flight concrete stair now. So for this we go to the same palette and we go to the multi-flight option, and selecting that we get a couple of options at the command line again. So I'm going to change this to go 1, and that's going to be an outer stringer set out. And then I'm prompted to select my point, so I'm going to select my first point here, P1. Then you'll select the first turn point of the stair on the outside, the second one, which is P3, obviously the end point at the base of the stair, which is P4, and then a 1 to define the height, which is 0.5 here. Again, you get prompted for a width, so let's just type in a width for the staircase arrangement. And with that, the stair will be created and you'll see a form of a two-flight staircase. So again, let's come back to the geometry first of all, and we're going to sort out our geometry. So there's a couple of things here we've got to do. So let's just set this back to our base length that we require, our height that we require here, and obviously number 5 here, which is the first tread, so that's adjusting the first flight. And now we can see that we have a toggle here, so we're going to change to the second flight. So slightly different arrangement in the dialog here. So again, we can come back in and we can change these measurements under length for 1. There, we can change that field there. Height is number 2 field, and we're going to change that again here. Field number 5, which is the offset, we're going to change that. So you do have other options. Obviously you can copy from 1 to 2, etc., and things like that. You can change the setting out arrangement under here by the definition by. I'm not going to alter any of that, I'm just going to leave it as. And obviously width of the staircase is number 4 here. That field can be adjusted as well. And the same applies to using the calculation method for depth type or value. Those options that we saw in the single flight are all available under here. So I'm just going to change field 7 there, pop back to flight number 1 and just change that as well in there. So with that, we can see that we have a middle landing appeared. We've got the top landing turned on as well. So if we change to the landing tab arrangement here, and you'll see here a slightly different arrangement in the dialog. We have a middle landing tab option from the drop down. So we have type 1, which is set, which is a plain type of landing. And what we can do here is the same kind of thing. You can adjust the length of it, so obviously from front to back here, as I would call it. So we're going to change that value in there and increase that. The width between the flights has been predetermined already because we put in a measurement for that. If you wanted to change that gap, you would change value 2 here. So if we change that down there, alter that measurement, reduce that, you can see that the second flight moves across towards the first flight. So again, if I reduce that down even more, you can see a more dramatic adjustment there. So let's just put that back to the default that we started with. The other thing to look at is obviously with a type 1 there's really no form to the landing, so you would probably set your stair header to 0 for thickness value in this case to get everything lined up correctly. You still get a small indent there, but it does bring the alignment across. And let's just come back into here. So let's go back to flight landings now. And we're going to go to flight 2, and you can see that we've got the top enabled by default. So again, we can control the length of this. So in this case, we're going to do a slightly different arrangement here. We're going to change that to that measurement there, and we're going to increase the width here. So, and again, you have options to control the stair header independently. So I'm actually now changing the top of this staircase flight number 2 here, and I'm just going to adjust that figure in there. So the same kind of primary settings apply that we had on the single flight stair. It's just that it's replicated into flight 2, and you have some slightly different options here that instead of just having one flight, you've got options to drop down to control which one you select under the various tabs here. And obviously you have all important control of the middle landing. Now, you may wonder why there are different types. There were different types decided upon based upon the arrangements that were seen within typical concrete stair arrangements. So here you can put a further cutout in the center of the stair. I would call that the well of the stair, the internal part of the staircase. And again, that activates certain fields in there. You can control these in here. So if you so wish, these fields can become active. So we can alter these. So let's just change one of these. Let's just change this in here. And we can see there that obviously the inside edge here moved across. I'll just move it back again so everyone can see that. So if I just press enter on it, you see it drops back in there. Similarly, you can control an elongation value. So this is an offset position here. This will move the second flight across. So if I type a figure in there, you can see that it extends that out. We put a negative figure in there, and it'll reduce it back. So if I put it back to the neutral position, that's 0. Similarly, this is the vertical offset again. So this is the one that we would have seen before. So if I put a value in there, that will drop the landing down. Let's just put that back to 0, so it goes back up to the nominal height we wanted. If we change to type 3, we can see again we have another different landing arrangement here and different fields. So we just got the elongation field available here now. The obviously a trim extend field in the middle is not there, but again you can alter the figure in here and it will move the second flight across, or if you reduce it or pull it back. Same sort of thing with the vertical offset in here. You can set that under number 6. Put that back to 0, moves it back up again. Type 4 is a slightly different arrangement again. This is where the landing space projected into the staircase area. So again, you've got different values that you can control in there. So let's just change the elongation value number 5 here. So just put in a different value in there. So obviously there it's going to move that across and moves the second flight across there. So that moves it, and the landing still stays where it is. So, but if I wanted to, I could increase that value for the landing extension. I'm not saying that I would do that, but let's just see for purposes sake. So you can see that the landing is projecting out in that area. Obviously, if you put it to 0, it will probably end up looking very similar to a type 1. So it just gives you more options to control it under this type 4. Just put that value in there and put an elongation value in there, 300 again, so we can control what's going on. And obviously number 6, which is the vertical offset, again you can put a value in there and then move it up and down relative to the nosing point at the top of the first flight. So that is pretty much how you do the 2-flight stair, and to get to the 3-flight stair we would choose option number 5, and we'll come on to that in the next part of the session.